Do video games affect people the same way that films, classic literature, and music does? I recently hosted my friend John Adams over to the garage for a series on my main channel called Garbage or Gold. John is an actor. He's currently on the show Wolfpack on Paramount Plus, and he's also been on The Dead Zone and Arrested Development and a number of other TV shows as well. Broadly speaking, it seems that the general public doesn't see video games as much more than mindless entertainment, and yet, at some level, I think some of us have been moved emotionally by the content of video games. Has that ever been you? Leave your comment in the description below and enjoy our conversation.
What is your most emotional scene in an acting movie? Something that absolutely had you either...
In a movie?
No, in a video game.
Okay.
That
I can answer that for a film, but for a video game...
A moment that happened in a video game that had you either extremely heartbroken, sad, or just over the moon excited because of all you had to overcome.
My channel might get canceled for what I'm about to say. I can't think of a time with the video game where I've ever been moved in a way where emotionally I was like thinking about the character or my worldview or anything like that, or God or life or any of those things. There are games that have attempted to do interesting things with that. Journey is one, but like Uncharted, for all of its great storytelling, is in Indiana Jones in video game format. Right. The Last of Us, I think they tried to do really interesting narrative things, and I was moved by Joel and Ellie's story. And then for the second one, I just got kind of bored, and even with the crazy things that happened in it, and I ended up turning it off. As far as narrative hooks, there's something amazing that happens in BioShock, and when it happens, that was like, okay. And then there's games where I just want to keep playing. It's not to say that the games are like flat for me. There are games where I want to keep playing because it's like reading a great book. The Batman Arkham Asylum games,
those are that really good.
I love the story and the characters and how it's written and performed and acted. So some of those are just fantastic. I think what's interesting for games is they experientially can do something that movies cannot. But there's not any games that I've played where they've been able to capitalize on that in a way to where I've been like really, really moved. That's not to say that it can't happen. Many people feel that way. God of War on PS4 is a great example. It's just, I'm saying for me, I can name 5 scenes in films right now that make me weep to this moment anytime I watch them. And have changed my life in the way that I understand art and people and things. Video games, I think they can do that. With movies, you're watching a guided director experience, writer's experience, actors delivering this experience. With video games, you're interacting in that experience, and that can interrupt maybe a rhythm and a flow or whatever. So, long answer. What do you think?
BioShock, I even though we mentioned that earlier, I forgot about that because I think for me, the way I frame my question, it's easy to conflate the emotional feeling you get from movies and television with the emotionality of being in the game. Like if you're playing Resident Evil and something jumped out, you're scared. And you're like, oh, that had an emotional effect on me. It's like, no, you were in it a different way than you are in a movie. But BioShock had that type of feel where while I was playing it, things would happen and I would kind of freak me out. Even the music in it, the way the music was around it, you hear things off in the distance, was really kind of freaky in BioShock. But the video game moment for me that stands out, and I'm so sorry that I can't remember exactly which one, but it was a Call of Duty game. And it's one where a nuclear bomb goes off. They're in a helicopter, and they look over in the distance, and they see the mushroom cloud. They see the nuclear bomb.
I know exactly. And they're like, we just have to
They just eat it. Yeah. And when the helicopter lands, it crash lands, and then you see it from the perspective of the guy in it, and he's breathing hard, and he's trying to get out, and he falls over and dies. That had me shook for like 2 days.
Wow.
It really did. It was weird how it affected me, but like that little
it's a great example.
Moment was something that... And it just like you said, it wasn't like movies that have moved, because like you said, there's a number of movies that I can just rattle off right now that will have me feeling emotional. But that death scene in that where you are the guy that's dying and you just this real quick replaying of it, you're like, I just saw death coming toward me. And now you're dying. That part was pretty surreal.
That's a great example. All right, then let me ask you this. Give me... Of any film you've ever seen, what is one moment that anytime you turn it on, doesn't matter how many times you've seen it, or maybe the first time you saw it, it leveled you?
So, Malcolm X with Denzel Washington. At the very end of the movie, when he's assassinated,
Yeah.
And the guys run up on him finally, and he looks at the guy. First of all, when Spike does the dolly movement, and then the old woman stops and tells him that he's praying for him, and you know the story, you know what's happening, you know that he's about to go die, and every time I see him look down at those guys that he knows are about to kill him, and he's like, brothers, please, and then he gets shot up, like that gets me.
Dang.
Every time. That and another Denzel movie, The Hurricane.
Yeah.
Where he's behind the glass and he has the phone in his hand and he says, "Get me out." And then he puts the phone, he's like, "Get me out." And boy, it's like, every time, man, it's like this guy has, for all these years, he's in jail for something that he didn't do. Get him out. It just, those kind of rip my chest out. What about you?
Okay. My first one of mine's a documentary that is called Waltz with Bashir. Have you heard of this? Mm-mm. It's an Israeli soldier.
Okay.
And he's starting to have all of these dreams. And as he's having these dreams, he's kind of going, where is all this coming from? Because it's a recurring dream. Mm-hmm. So what he does is he goes back to a bunch of his soldier buddies, and he interviews them, and then he has them come back to a studio, and they all read the lines of the script, which was their dialogue from the interview. So it's a documentary, but it's animated. And he animates the whole thing. Okay. Except it's perfect because it gets into like memory and consciousness and trauma, dissociation, like all of these incredibly tough topics, and it's also narratively chronicling, Israel, Lebanon, like the war, like all of these very complicated subjects, but this man's experience going through as a soldier. And I'm gonna like weep thinking about it right now. The very end of that movie, it stops being animated, and you see this footage that no human should see, and it just, I'm like, you can see it right now. I'm like, it is the ultimate power of filmmaking. To like, he told the story in the best way he could tell the story. Once you get to the very end of that movie, like literally, I'm weeping, and like I have to just turn it off and just sit in silence for like 20 minutes to just be like, oh my gosh, like that is a real thing, and it's like the movie is so beautifully constructed, so well told, so interesting. And then once you get to that point, like the noise and the rhythm of it over here, and then it cuts in the way that it does. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's so narratively effective that it just ruins me every time I see it. So that's one.
I love those.
Oh, man. Dude.
I love movies that do that.
Oh, and then there's actually, it's another documentary. It's not just documentaries that move me. There's a lot of emotional scenes in just regular narratives as well, but like, there's another documentary called Dear Zachary, A Letter to a Son About His Father, where once it starts, it's breathless, and just when you think you got a grasp on what's going on, it just gives you a left hook to the chin, and then you realize that it's about something else, and just when you think you got it, there's another left hook to the chin, and the last one, again, just tears out of my eyes about like social systems and human systems and marriage and divorce and death and life and children and like the human experience and like, and the thing is, what's fascinating about this film, it's got the way that it's done, it's got like no production quality. It's like 4:3. It looks like it might as well have been shot on someone's camcorder they got in Best Buy in like 2003, and it's not impressive, but it is so impressively told. And when you get there, you lose it. So, man, I don't know. I feel deeply on this stuff. I can tell, man. Anyway, so video games. Yeah.
They're fun. They're fun and make you cry.
They're funny to make you cry.